Well,
I've had pneumonia so many times, I think I was a little susceptible.
oh boy, you got, what is that sticker? I'd be, I'd be muffin, muffin without you. I get it. I get your joke. That's a good dad joke.
Yeah, I had Trader Joe's. He said, "Is it okay if I give him a lollipop?" I said, "Are you insane?"
Check, check. Okay. Are we live or are we Memorex? We're live. Some of us may remember that. Well, great. We're live. We want to welcome everyone here today, including those who may be with us online. Again, we're in our third week of integrity. And again, this material is not my own. It's a series that was actually done by Andy Stanley, one of his sermon series that I'm trying my darndest to turn into a class series. So, in a sermon, he doesn't ask any questions. He asks questions, but he never lets anyone answer them. He asks a lot of questions, but he kind of self-answers. But here, again, if you got any questions or thoughts or comments, you're more than welcome. How do you guys have a last class today, don't you, in there? Okay. So, it's in studying for this, as is always, the teacher always ends up spending hours. I learn a lot more about this than you guys ever will. Well, hopefully you'll learn something from it. But in doing it, it's kind of a downer almost, when we talk about integrity, because a lot of it's in the negative, and it is kind of difficult, putting this together. Believe me, we will get to some positive. But he continued on in this next class to be a little bit more, making sure that he puts it into us exactly what integrity is, what we need. In fact, it was interesting because one of the things they talked about is, where do we go to get it? Well, so I went online and was kind of looking at some places like, what's going on here? Is there places that you can actually get it? There's a site called Accountability to You. I don't know if you can see it or not up there. Accountability to You. Anyway, it said this is in their pre. It says this is a one-day training workshop, and you'll learn accountability strategies that will help you and your team. These are more for like a business application. You and your team stay on track to achieve results. Attendees will have a chance to discuss successful methods to motivate, recognize, and collaborate with the team to achieve responsible and accountability in the workplace. And of course, as you can see here, next they said, why is integrity important? Acting with integrity gives you a peace of mind in knowing you did the right thing, regardless of the outcome. Living a life of integrity is important for several reasons. Your conduct reflects your character, and it builds your reputation. Integrity inhibits moral failure due to compromise or cheating. It shows that you have nothing to hide, that if revealed, would bring shame or reproach upon you. Under scrutiny, your life will be declared innocent. By committing to live based on excellent principles, you provide an example for others to follow. You also have a basis for open communications with others because they trust you. Your relationships can prosper based on honesty and forthrightness. So this is a non-biblical. This is just out there, So they're saying that it's good to have integrity, right? We know this. But let me ask you another question to start here back into the class. Now I already know the answer, so you don't have to raise your hand or anything like that because I know the answer is yes. Have you ever lied? Today? Yeah, today, exactly. Yeah, have you ever lied in an attempt to assure someone that you can be trusted? Have you ever lied in an attempt to assure someone that you can be trusted? And we don't need, I'll go, it's human nature, isn't it? So far, only to yourself? So let me give you this scenario because I'm sure all of us have maybe been through this. I know we kind of had some of this on with our kids, but go back to high school. Let's say you're in 10th grade or whatever. Your parents gave you the opportunity to drive to school, to high school, right? But with this caveat, you can drive to school, but you park it, and you stay at school, and then you drive it back home. You can't go anywhere else. I remember putting those rules on our kids, right? Yeah, if you're going to use my truck, you can take it to school, you park it, and you bring it back home, right? So, all sounds good. Then one day, maybe one or two of your friends said, let's go to lunch. Who's got a car? And of course, they look at you, right? And this is an opportunity for you to look good in front of your friends, huh? Yeah, hey, I got a car. Yeah, I got a car. Opportunity to look good, but not actually be good, right? So you drove. You went to lunch. Came back. Next week, hey, it's Tuesday again. Let's all go to so-and-so's car. Okay, yeah. This kind of became a habit, didn't it? Right. Now, have any of you were part of this group here? Maybe. Then one day, out of the blue, you go home and whoever lets you take the car, your mom or your dad or your uncle or your aunt, whatever, ask you this question. Did you leave the school today to go to lunch? Then you had a decision to make, right? You had a decision to make. Do I want her to trust me, or do I want to tell her the truth? Do I want her to trust me, or do I want to tell her the truth? This is something that we find ourselves in. If not, we've known someone that's been in, right? Have you ever lied so that you can continue to be trusted? Again, I'm not looking for, have I ever lied to continue to be trusted? We all know this. We all understand this. Have you ever compromised your integrity to protect your reputation as someone who has integrity? Right? We all live with this pressure someone in our lives, don't we? It's just constantly on our shoulders all the time, you know. We want everyone to trust us. We want to feel like we're trusted, right? But sometimes we're willing to be bad just to look good. Sometimes we're willing to be bad in order to look good. Isn't that weird? You know, we don't want to tell her, but because we don't want to look bad. So we'll do something bad so that we can look good. Or we'd rather be bad, obviously, than look bad. You know, we don't want to get caught in something, do we? Now let me ask you this. Have you ever known someone, and this was interesting because Andy brought this up, that, you know, he's a pastor of a large church. He's got probably, 40, 50 employees that come to him. And he said, you know, this happened to him. But have you ever known anyone, someone like at your workplace, that went to their boss, maybe you, and they were told the truth about something that they really didn't need to know the truth about, but that you actually went and told them the truth about something? You know, especially, again, if it didn't really need to be said. You know, now, maybe you were a boss. Maybe you've been in this position where an employee's come to you and told you something that you're like, geez, you've told you the truth about something that otherwise maybe, but put aside or whatever. But let me ask you this. Again, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, but when you go to do that, do you think your boss is going to have respect for you or lose respect for you for telling the truth? Hopefully have respect. Might be. I guess it's the scenario that we're looking for here would be someone that actually, this is something that if you're the boss and you would want to know this, but maybe someone doesn't tell you the truth. But if you tell your boss the truth, don't they usually accept that and say, great, now I'm going to trust you more now. You're a person that I can trust. We all want to be trusted, don't we? Isn't that something that we strive for? Again, I don't know, have any of you ever had that happen to you or been in a situation where someone told the truth to a boss and the boss ended up saying, later on, hey, this is a person I can trust. You're going to go to this position because I know I can trust you because you've proven yourself to me. Yeah. It's something that maybe we don't want to do, but if you've ever been in that position, you've done it. You probably walked away going, that was the best move I could have done. Was it easy? No. And here goes back to this same thing. Again, I'm not meaning to be anything, but the fact is when we mess up, it's always better to fess up, isn't it? I mean, we tell ourselves that, we tell other people that, but is it an easy thing to do? It's not all that easy, is it? But that's integrity. If you mess up and you fess up, that's a part of integrity. And integrity builds that trust. It's another part of what integrity is for that trust.
I think just like you can develop bad habits, you can develop good habits. And if you make it a habit, if you make it a practice that whenever that you do mess up, that you fess up and you don't put it off, you do it right away, then it becomes easier. And maybe it doesn't ever become easy, but it becomes easier, and it becomes just the way that you expect it that you're going to behave. I mean, I hate delivering bad news at work, but I mean, a long time ago, I learned that it's much better to deliver it right away than to sit and dread delivering it and hold on to it for all day long or through the night to the next day and then deliver. You might as well just say, okay, it's not going to get better. You might as well just do it and get it over with instead of just suffering with it. And you can get a habit of doing those kind of things.
Jim. You're correct, Steve.
So I work for a British software company, and they had a culture where you fessed up because you need to learn from it so that it doesn't happen again. And people all the time said, whoa, guys, I'm sorry I did this, blah, 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 blah. And then we look for solutions to prevent it. Well, we bought the software branch of a company from Palo Alto who shall remain nameless. And their culture was make a mistake, get fired. And so they never talk. They never admit to anything. And one day I was working with the team, and I got some folks from that company working on my team, and I messed up big time. And I mean, cost a team a couple days of work because they hadn't named something correctly. And when I was doing some cleanup, it went away because it wasn't named correctly, right? And the folks that on my team that were from that other company were just stunned that I would actually call their director and say, okay, this is what happened, and this is what we need to do to make sure it doesn't happen going forward. And I mean, we've been together now for 4 years, and they still have not been able to get out of that mindset of, you don't tell anybody when you've made a mistake.
Well, isn't that just terrible? Just like when we first read about what it does companies, how much better the overall feel of a company is when you know that this honesty part is there. When I remember seeing something about Elon Musk here a little while ago saying something, you know what? I expect people to mess up. That's what he said. I expect people to make mistakes because that's the only way you learn is from your mistakes. But if you make a mistake and you have to hold it in, how does that make that whole culture in that business? I once worked for a company where it was a very, very hard to work for boss, should we say. And I remember once he told me as he was driving, he says, Jeff, you need to learn to be greedy. This came from my boss. You need to learn to be greedy. I just had the hardest time with that. And the whole culture of the business was around, not doing the right thing, but, do whatever it takes that's good for you, But you can bet that's why they have those classes for businesses to learn that the type of atmosphere that you want is you want to be trusted. You want to be able to say those sort of things because you need to. We all want to be trusted. The people that are around us, the people in here, we want to trust each other in here, don't we? We want to feel like we come to a place where we can be trusted and where people there will trust us, The people that we live with, the people that we work with, the people that we socialize with. Tell me how many of you have friends that are totally untrustable that are your best friends? No takers? You got a guy that is cheated, messed up, stole from you, taken this or that. They're not your best friend? It's kind of amazing because the fact is we all like to be around people who we feel we can trust and who they feel they can trust us. It's hard to put a word to it, but integrity is something that fits. You want to be around people with integrity, and they want to be around people with integrity because you know that you have this human aspect, like we talked. You know that they're going to do what they ought to do, and you know that you're going to do what you ought to do. We gravitate towards people that are trustworthy, don't we? We want to be around people. If we see someone and we know that we want to be around them. That's just where we want to be, and we want to build our relationships that can go the distance with people like that. That's how marriages last. Is because you're with someone that you can trust, that has integrity, and that you have integrity. Now, there's a flip side to this. I'm sure we've all had or had relationships with someone who lacks integrity, right? Through our years. Maybe in school, growing up with a kid. Maybe someone at work who used to be a good friend, but something that lacked integrity happened, and now maybe they're a second tier or a third tier friend. I have friends that, I went to, grew up with that. The things happened, basically around, that they maybe lied or they cheated or whatever. And I didn't really want to be around them, but yet, I may run into them once in a while. Oh yeah, how you doing? But they're not people that I want to really socialize with or that I gravitate towards. Or maybe, I hate to say this, but maybe you're in a relationship right now with someone who you're dealing with an issue of integrity. And it's very difficult can be very difficult. In fact, Andy Stanley put it this way: integrity will determine the health and the depth of our relationships. Your integrity, their integrity, will determine the health and the depth of our relationships. And he goes on to say this: integrity is essential to relational contentment and fulfillment. Integrity is essential. It's not a maybe to relational contentment and fulfillment. Anyone disagree with this statement? It all
Jeff,
makes sense, doesn't it?
Jeff, in Galatians 6, what came to mind was that, and talking about relational integrity, in Galatians 6:1, it says, "Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual," this is King James, "restore such one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted." In part of integrity is being truthful with one another. When we see someone not being truthful, not being upright, not sinning, if you will, whether it's secularly or in the corporate setting, it's a hard thing to let people know that.
Definitely.
To let them know that's not okay.
Definitely. It is hard. And, it's like the old saying, no pain, no gain. And it's like Steve said, integrity is like a muscle. You've got to work at it. It may be difficult to use it all the time. But the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And again, a lot of times we don't look at that. But, it is the more honest you are, the more honest you'll be. The quicker you get around to doing what you know you should do, what you ought to do, the quicker it'll become easier to do that. So let's face it, we all have to deal with our integrity issues, don't we? Constantly, Not to mention, as we've been talking about, the integrity of those around us, Okay, I may let my own slip, but Steve, you lied to me. How could you do that? It's okay. I know I lied over. But we also have to deal with the integrity of people around us, don't we? And learn how to deal with that properly as well, right? And this is kind of interesting that comes into play because the closer that you get to people, the more the integrity comes into play. And the closer you get to someone, the more friction comes into play, right? Proximity creates the potential for friction. And Mike probably knows a lot of this. I sell equipment, both metalworking, woodworking machinery. I have a metal lathe in my garage. I'm used to working in using calipers and getting real close tolerances. And there's so many moving parts that are designed. They have to be designed with very, very close tolerances, which mean you have a shaft that's 30 thousandths, and the hole that you put it in has to be 30 thousandths plus maybe 1,000th plus or minus. That for this to work properly, you have to have that in there. And the thing is if there's something else that has to be there, because once you put all these parts together and get them moving, that friction, how close they are together, can cause overheating, can cause galling, can cause them to get ruined. So what do you use? Oil. You use a lubricant. You use oil. Oil is like integrity. Integrity is like oil. Because when you're close to people, the closer you are to people, the more chance you have of causing friction. And integrity is something that helps lubricate, helps keep that friction down. It's amazing because how simple it is. Even in the best of relationships, I always remember, I'll kind of vacation or a long weekend or something, and you say, well, geez, you guys have been together, over the weekend. How are you enjoying it? Well, I just can't wait for this over so I can get back to work, so I can get back to my routine because a little bit is good, but a whole bunch of someone around you, even though you love them, when you change that and you ended up being around someone more than what you expected, you're like, I can't wait till we get back to some normalcy here because we're just around each other too much, but that's where integrity comes into play, right? But proximity creates that potential for friction. And so you need to have more integrity. It's interesting because, you're not mad at your neighbor's boss, are you? No, even though your boss may be bad, but maybe your neighbor's boss is even a lot worse boss. But you're not mad at him because you're not around him, right? And you don't get upset at a stranger's wife or a stranger's kids or son or daughter or whatever. You get mad at your own kids and your own wife because of proximity, because you're around them. So proximity creates the potential for friction, which increases the demand for integrity, which means we have to strengthen it up. There's never a time that we need to lack integrity. There's never like, well, I don't need that anymore, right? In this situation, I need it, but in that, now I just don't really need it. So answer me this. Real simple question here. Falling in love is easy. It only requires come on, I thought you guys would get this. Falling in love is easy. It only requires a pulse, right? That's how easy it is to fall in love. Anyone can fall in love. But staying in love, what does that require? A whole lot more, doesn't it? Andy used this, and this is not a magic ring, Frodo. It doesn't mean anything but besides you're married, that you have to now work at it. It doesn't all of a sudden, it's not magical. It doesn't, once you put this on, that all of a sudden you live happily ever after. You're going to run into these issues, right? And integrity is that lubrication when you're close to those around you, those that's your spouse, your people that you work with. So the real question is, that we need to be asking ourselves is, how do we get integrity? How do we guard it? How do we keep it? Or how do we get it back when we lose it? It's interesting because as I just kind of talked at the very first there, but in this world we live in, it's so easy for women to, go to the mall or whatever, and you got that whole big counter in all of the big major stores, Macy's and so forth. They got all the makeup and all of the you can get made up and you can buy all these sort of things and you can get fixed up there. You can go to the gym, Adam, and you can work out, right? And you can get make yourself feel really good. You can make yourself better, stronger. You can make yourself look better. If you're into golf or sports, you can go take golf lessons. You can get better. There's so many things in our lives that we can get better at. But where do we go to get better at integrity? What do we do? What's offered out there? Besides, like I said, the very first there, I was trying to find something. Well, here's the thing. They didn't say what it was like or whatever. I don't know how in depth they get into it, but they're just telling people you need to do this. It's better for your company to have integrity. I don't know that they're going to say, well, here's how you do it. But it's very difficult for us to find places on how do we get it build our integrity, right? But when it comes to integrity, it's far more important than how you look, than what your golf score is, than how big your muscles are, right? In your life, in the long haul, in the big picture, integrity is much more important than any of those things. Do you agree? I want to make sure I don't say, women, your looks are great. But you know what? We all know that as we age, it maybe takes a little bit more, or we're never going to look the same we did when we're 20, right? But our integrity is just important when you're 10 or 11 or 12 as when you're 50, 60, 80. It's still just as important, and it can be just as strong. Adam.
I will add that the further I've gotten in my career, I mean, I'm not going to stop, but the more that I, try to show integrity, the more I try to also hold people to integrity, the more I get pushback and the more that people just don't trust it. And I don't know if that's just a progression of civilization, but there's times when, I think it was even stated before, you go and you tell someone something and they don't know how to take it. They're not used to someone coming forward or showing integrity, or, they think that you're trying to play them. They think that you're, okay, so what's the catch? Why are you telling me this? I don't trust you. I don't trust your motives. Why would you actually come forward about this? Or why would you make this decision when you could have easily done something that was more self-serving? It creates some doubts with people who are just constantly used to just being either used or not seeing integrity.
You're exactly right, because that's something we have to deal with. But I guarantee you, in the long run, in the big picture, is where it will be seen. Mike,
to Adam's point, I think that's why, as you said earlier, integrity, or anyway, I took it from what you said earlier. Integrity isn't an event process; it's a behavior. If you do it once, particularly if it's out of character, nobody's going to trust you. If you continue to do it, those who really care know that that's who you are, and that's the truth, that you are trustworthy, regardless of what else is said.
Right. And again, it goes back to that thing. Where do we get it? Like, I don't know how many of all had kids, but we hope that we've instilled in our kids some integrity. When they leave, we hope we say, we taught them the right things. We hope that they, and hopefully that you were taught, and that your parents were a good example of integrity. There's plenty of people that know, they say, I do this because this is the way I was taught, the way my parents weren't trustworthy. I heard my dad lying all the time, or I heard my mom doing it. So, that's what they walk away with. But, hopefully we have, and hopefully we've tried to teach our kids the right thing. That's the goal, isn't it? We hope it sticks, we hope we've taught them everything that we can. So when it comes to maintaining integrity, the deck is stacked against us, isn't it? Like Adam said, there's a lot of people out there. It's very difficult, isn't it? It's not an easy fix. We don't. Does anyone have the answer to this? How to make sure that integrity is first and foremost? We don't, right? So, good luck when you're out there. God bless in your walk with trying to figure out integrity. Huh? So to be honest, to have integrity, it's kind of up to us, isn't it? Right. We don't go to a class once a week, or, it's very difficult to try to find where we can do this. It's up to you. It's up to me, right? So where do we go for a little help? Let's see, because Andy gives us a good suggestion here. Andy says a place to start is what he calls a big North Star. Okay, we need something that we can see, that can guide us, that can help us. We don't use the stars too much ourselves anymore, but there was a time, just like the wise men, they seen the star in the heaven and they followed it, and they relied on the stars, But we need something that we could use as an image, and a good, we need something that's a good, big star. And this is found. There's a lot of places in the Bible it's found, but we're gonna look at one spot in the Bible, and it's in Proverbs. Proverbs 11:3. Now we all know what proverbs are. They're sayings that usually have one. Sometimes they're double-sided, but they're always truthful. One that I always remember. Like the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. That's a proverb, and it's true. Whatever the weakest link is in a chain, it's what it is. Now this is a two-part. Even though it's a one verse, there's two parts to this, and this is the first part. So don't get ahead of me, even though you'd like to if you're reading it. Those are looking it up. And this is out of the Amplified Version. I like this version because it adds a couple other things there. The integrity, and then it adds, and moral courage. Whoa, there's another little phrase there. But that's actually part of integrity. The integrity and moral courage of the upright will guide them. The integrity and moral courage of the upright will guide them. So here's my question to you. What guides you? What's your North Star? What guides the world? Pleasure? Profit? looking good, financial security, status, fill in the blank. You know, and we all hope integrity guides us, right? But it says this, the integrity will guide us. We need something to guide us through life. And integrity is that guide, is that thing that we should be focusing on. It's that North Star, right? But here's the challenge. Again, what guides you? We don't know if integrity guides us until maintaining integrity costs us. And Steve, this is the difficult part you have when you have to tell someone something, right? Oh, dang it. This is going to be hard. He's not going to like me anymore. You know, we used to go out to lunch, but I can already feel it. He's going to say, Steve was a little bit too honest for me. I hate to pick on you, Steve. Dave was a little bit too honest for me, you know, and so we feel bad. You know, I had to tell him the truth. I had to give him this news. Now he doesn't like me. But we don't know if integrity guides us until maintaining integrity costs us. Andy made this point too. He says, he hopes all of us, at some point along our way in life, that our integrity will be tested so hard. And the way he actually put it, actually not just tested, but it would be more of a pop quiz. You ever had a pop quiz? You know, you don't get to study for a pop quiz. It's just like, bam, you walk into a class, whatever, and you say, you know, okay, tell me this answer, and you're like, where'd that come from? You know, hopefully that you know what it is, But you know, the thing is we'll find ourselves in those things. Do we know if integrity guides us? When we'll know is when maintaining it costs us. You know, what does it cost? When we don't have time to think about an answer, we just do it. We just come up with the right thing. That's when we'll know if integrity is if we've actually built up that muscle of integrity. And in doing so, it's a test that actually cost you maybe. And maybe even cost you dearly, a difficult thing. You know, Adam, in your situation, maybe, gosh, it'd just be better to go with the flow. You know, not upset the apple cart. You know, I don't want to be in this position. It's hard. It hurts. Like your muscles hurt when you work out. You know, yesterday a couple weeks ago, I had some trees cut down in my yard, and they were going to charge me more to haul the trees away, and I said, well, no, I'll just leave them here, and I'll first of all ask my nephew. He burns his whole house heated with that. So I asked him, do you want some wood? I'm too busy right now. Okay. The guy said, well, I'll have someone come and get it. Well, just 2 weeks ago, he never did. So I just put it on KSL and said, I've got a bunch of firewood. People want to come get it. Well, I was inundated with calls, so I was out there helping him move some of this, and this is green wood. So if you ever cut down green wood, it doesn't take much of a log. You're thinking, wow, what's this thing made out of? Ironwood or something? But anyway, I was sore, because I did some work, and I kind of felt it today. But that's when you'll know when maintaining something cost you, when maintaining it cost you. Now, on the flip side, we should be very careful, and this is why Jesus says we should be very careful not to judge other people whose shoes that we've never walked in. Again, we talk about that integrity. Well, my integrity, yeah, but what? I can't believe you did that. What are we doing? We're judging that person, aren't we? And Jesus specifically says that we shouldn't be doing that. Again, we've all thought this, we've all said this. I'll never do that. Right? But the problem is, you don't know what that is until it's there, right? I'll never do that. And those of us sitting here, we say that to ourselves. Oh, Would you ever? No way. I'd never do that. And suddenly, pop quiz, you're there, in that situation, and you don't know if that's, losing that friend or losing that promotion or, whatever it is. It might be something that a friend, this is a class which I was talking to Roger about. Where'd Roger go? Oh, there he is. I heard this morning. That, this would be a great class for the kids to learn that because, there's so many things when we're that age that we just, this goes back to, who's got a car? Who's got the lunch? Right here. Look at me. Yep. Right out here in the parking lot. Yep. My mom let me take it because you get to look good, right? And so there's that pop quiz. They say, well, and you told your parents, okay, you drive that car to school and you park, I'll never do that. I'll never go to lunch with anyone else. Don't worry. And then that happens, right? And in that moment, you and only you will discover if you have integrity and moral courage, right? Because again, back to our slide, back to our verse. The integrity and moral courage of the upright will guide them. Now, two things in here, because it says the integrity and the moral courage of the upright will guide them. The Hebrew word for upright is very much like the English word. Does anyone know what it means? Standing upright. He's trying to give you guys a pop quiz. It literally means standing up, standing straight, being vertical, shoulders back, chin up, straight back, head forward. How many of you ever had your parents say this? Straighten up. Straighten up. Now, I don't think it was because we were bending over, right? But it means to get it, straighten up, yeah. Straighten up, not do this, not be bending over. This isn't straighten up. This is something totally different, right? When you live your life like this, you're seeing what's in front of you, right? What's now? What's here? What's now? When you live your life like this, you get to see more in the distance, more later, right? It's immediate, right now, versus later, right? It's now versus later. Later is longer, isn't it? Now is immediate. Have any of you ever made quick decisions of something that you wish now that you wouldn't have? Have you ever made a decision based on now, immediate, not longer, later, and wish, gosh, why did I do that? Why in the world? What was I thinking? Well, it says, the integrity and the moral courage of the upright will guide them. Is it better to make your decisions based off immediate, or is it better to make your decisions based off later? Thinking about it, taking in the whole picture, seeing everything out there. Jim. Whoop, hold it. Sorry. We are live, so we have to make sure the people online can hear you.
I made some decisions when I was a lot younger, and part of me really regrets making those decisions. It changed the direction of my life, but then I think, had I not made those decisions and had I gone with what would have been the smart decision, I wouldn't have 8 children. I wouldn't have 7 grandchildren. I wouldn't have experienced the things I've experienced. It would have been a completely different life. And I've learned that I need to live without regretting those decisions. They were just decisions. Mm-hmm. They weren't bad or good decisions. They were just decisions. And my life is what it is, and I'm having a blast. Mm-hmm. And, so I've learned to scrap the regret for not making the smartest decision.
Right. Well, and there's I look around the room here, we have, mostly people that are 30 plus. There's been a lot of decisions we've had to make in our lives. And some of them have Ben, we could have done this, but I'm glad I did this. But there's a lot of them that maybe a lot of them we don't even want to remember, but that we would have said, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would have made a different decision, right? Again, this affects me, affects you, it affects everybody. But there's one thing we can all learn, and to help us back to find or to rebuild or to get that integrity back and to be able to build on it and strengthen on it. And when we find ourselves in those times when our integrity is at question, what's always best to do are these three things. If you mess up, own up, and clean up. When you mess up, own up, and clean up.
Jeff,
Mike.
there are times that for some reason this came to mind when Jim spoke just now. There in steel, there are times that if a repair is done on a steel member, a steel girder, a beam, a column, it is often stronger than the original material. Welding properly done is difficult, and it repairs something that was missing or a fracture, a crack, but that weld material is stronger than the rest of the member. Mm-hmm. So making a mistake and correcting it is often the best thing we can do.
It is.
As we look back.
Yeah.
The worst thing we can do is to ignore the fracture, ignore the compromise in that.
It's true, because it won't go away. It just gets worse, if anything.
Right. It just gets worse, and then it is a weakness.
Right. And again, what I'm saying here, we all know. I'm not. None of you are going, gosh, I wish I would have known that. We all know this. There's nothing that's. But to be reminded, to understand that. But when we put in situations, when we get that pop quiz, again, it's really walking around and saying, "I'm a man of integrity." You betcha. You can bet on that. Well, wait till that pop quiz comes up. We'll see how much your integrity is. But if you want to build on it, one of the best things for us to learn from is if we mess up, we own up, and we clean up. And I think we're out of time. So we're going to go ahead and leave there, stop there, and we'll as Paul Harvey said, say the rest of the story, the rest of that our message starting next week. Let's go ahead and have a word of prayer. Dear wonderful and gracious Father, we just want to thank you for all that you do for us, for being the good, loving, caring, wonderful Father that has our best interest always in your sight and in your mind, and help us, dear Father, to be able to build off of what you have instilled in us, that we may take your word that's written on our heart and our minds, and then we may understand it, and then we may grow from it, and then we may learn how integrity is such an important part of our life, for our whole life. And dear Father, the rest of this day, be with us. Help us to be people of integrity when we find ourselves in situations. Help us to have an enjoyable time worshiping with each other, and enjoying the beauty that you've given us in our lives, dear Father. Help us always to rejoice in the Lord always, as Paul has reminded us. Again, we thank you for all that you do. We humbly ask this prayer in Christ's most holy and precious name. Amen.